Alright, for anybody trying to put in a house and live off a piece of bare land somewhere, you got maybe some hillside or a bit of a drainage. This is what I did with mine. We got the fence around it, put a barbed wire fence and keep cattle out, so we keep as much of the feces out of the water as possible. But up here, this is a thimbleberry patch, and it's April right now. When this grows up, it's be real thick and a lot drier than it is now. We've got a lot of water coming down for runoff right now. Over here where you see more of the wild ginger growing, there's a slight trickle of water coming through. It's just sort of ditched off of these old logging roads from decades ago. But the further you come down this little draw here, it turns into a meadow, and it grasses up knee high in June in here. And the more of the seeps from this combined aquifer are popping up to the surface. And the water under the surface is coming through the ground in these little tubes, like rotted out branches or tree roots, and the water's just following them through. They've decayed, and it's a spot for the water to go. So I got to digging in here when I was trying to make my well. I need a water source that could be proven in order to get a building permit. So that was one of the first things I did, and then put in the septic field, get that tested. But I got to digging in here. We dug this trench, and I was just following along trying to find these little seeps of water. So I dig down a foot or two and get down into blue clay, and then you get into gravel below that, and you don't want to go any further than the blue clay in this area particularly, because then you start losing the water instead of having it flowing down on top of the clay. But we get in here, and there's spots that these little tubes of water, you sort of see it bubbling right out of the ground there. Maybe it's little spots like that are bubbling up. And we got another real good one in here. This is one I was really happy with when I was digging. It's just a hole in the side of this bank, probably the size around is the diameter of a quarter, and water always pouring out of it. And we got a bunch of those all along this little trench I dug here. 2-3 feet down in the clay. Water is 6 to 10 inches deep in there, and it's, you can see by the movement, it's slowly going downhill towards, I got my pipe and catch all this. I had this covered over with boards for a few years, but now I think it's time to dig it out properly and fill it in with gravel and get it sealed up a little better. So we've got that, and then we've got this other hole I dug here, and in the future I might join the two, but it works the way it is, so I decided not to work on it anymore. But underneath this tuft of grass right here, I can reach my arm way back there, right up to my shoulder. It's a big hole underneath there, the water just flows through, and it's a great spot to catch all this surface water. But in say August, you won't see all the surface water in here. It'll be just what's coming out of the ground. And we follow my pipe that I made over here out of the other spot to try to help it join in with the larger spot here. This, out of that one trench alone, that amount of water is flowing year round, always. No matter what's on the surface, we always got that, and what comes out of the other hole. So we took an irrigation shovel, we just joined all these little pockets of water, and they're coming out of the ground, and cut them all into this one stream. I'll walk around this way. And it just keeps drying up, it gets wetter and wetter, and the stream gets bigger until we get down into the ponds that I dug, where we're trapping the water, and we got our outflow to the house. But when they had the animals in here, the cattle used to run through here from a local ranch. This is part of their range before I bought it, and their hoofs would make all these little divots, and that would make it so that the water had somewhere to sit, and it gives the ground more holding capacity, where it's got more area to just stay green and stay lush, and it doesn't dry out so much, and we can keep that water under the ground. Because whatever you see on the surface here, there's just as much water flowing under the ground. That's where our water comes from. So this water would need to be filtered. You use like a 50 micron filter and a UV clarifier for whatever your capacity that you're drawing from it would be. You have that all matched up. Easy stuff to install. And then we come down into the hole. So I dug this thing out and it was 8 feet deep everywhere. I put the 2 rings in. They're perforated. This one's a solid one on top. And with that and the lid, it was under $700. I don't remember the exact pricing, but not very expensive to buy that. And I rented a 3.5 ton mini excavator. Brought it up here, dug the hole, used the clay from the ground, and we dug the hole and made our berm. And then took any material. I took a lot of material out of the bank where the old road used to come up. It used to follow the barbed wire where I put the fence in. I took a ton of that out to help fortify, build up the berm, the dike, keep the water in. And then I took over 20 pickup loads of field stones off of my field down there, and we loaded them in the hole, keep that wheel ring from tipping over and keep the water from being exposed to the sunlight. And we're trying to make it so it's not a pond, so it doesn't go stagnant. We want to have the water stored underground. It's just last year we put the last couple pickup loads in here finally, and now I got to the point where we're letting the leaves settle down on top, put some landscape fabric on it to try to seal it down, and then we'll load sand on top. Put a good foot of sand on this, maybe some more dirt out of that bank to make the berm even larger. And over here I've seeded it with bulrushes. It'd be kind of hard to see the clumps of seed that I put on the ground over there. Little white tufts anyways. And I'm going to actually take some bulrush out of the pond down the road and stick them in here so they mature. Try to get the bulrushes, and we'll have the water diverted into that a little bit more, and we'll use that as a bit of a filter. And our well here is only 6 feet of actual depth, to store your water. 4 feet across or 44 inches across, so it's not a huge volume of water, but there's always so much coming in to replace it. We got over 4 gallons an hour to replace, so it's plenty to run your house on for washing and whatnot. But we put a couple bags of bentonite clay in the bottom to help as a seal, so we wouldn't be losing water out of the bottom of it. And then over here I'd put in a bit of an overflow. We try to control the water that comes off at the top, the overspills. So I've had a pipe put in. I just dug that down a little bit and filled it over with rock and put it close to the trees to help so it doesn't erode. If we just let this water come, cascading over the side, it's going to erode. So we only have a couple inches of dike here before the water goes over. So we cut this down and put a pipe. We direct the majority of the water down into my other pond here. You get some trout going in there once in a while, or you just have it there for extra water in an emergency. And right this time of year we have so much that it's going all over the place. We can't pipe it all in with my little 3-inch pipe there. But 3.5 hour with the excavator, dig the hole, and then put the rings in. The little 3.5 ton excavator just barely carry these rings up. These rings are about 2,200 pounds a piece, so you got to make sure you got an excavator that can handle that. Haul them up the hill, set them in, and then dig the trench out with it all the way down. That took about an hour and a half, 2 hours to dig the trench in. And I have a good friend of mine who's a plumber. He come along behind and just was gluing pipe, dropping it in, and as soon as we got to the bottom, he was already piped up to me and started filling it right back in over top. And 3.5 hours we had the pipe in too. It was a 1-day job. All in all, buy some friends some dinners and a beer for his gluing, and have a couple family members help with the guide ropes to make sure things are setting straight, and get a level out there, and a guy in a machine, $35 an hour for the day on the machine. And the pipe, all the pipe I believe is $600. We're under $2,000 for a water source here. And it was just an area that had some water coming through, and dig into it. It doesn't have to be running down a hill like this. You could do this right beside a marsh. You just keep off to the side so you don't disturb it. A marshy area, a flat wet spot, dig down, and there's all kinds of water down there. That's how I did it anyway.